Hello and welcome to A Day with a Car Driver. I'm Day.
And I am Scamp.
And this is the autumn of 2018.
You said autumn, not fall.
I know, I prefer autumn personally.
It's weird, because I'm the European, but I prefer fall. But anyway, so the fall 2018 season,
There was anime.
it was a crap season.
Yeah, this wasn't a great season.
At least I think so.
I agree. Although there were some things that did quite well.
Yes, like
I don't think there were any ones that we liked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so Zombieland Saga.
Oh, yeah, we kind of liked it.
We liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was fantastic, but we liked it, and we watched you watched most of it, and I watched all of it.
I did watch it all.
Oh, you did end up finishing it?
I think what was my problem with it was I liked what the vibe it was going for in the earlier episodes, and then it became more of an idol show, and I got less interested.
Yes, and, idol shows that are interested in examining, but what is it to be an idol? It's not really a novel take anymore. It's been done too many times.
And what's annoying, because before that, it's like, it had the most novel take of all, which is that the idols are all dead.
Yep.
The show opens with the main girl being hit by a truck.
Yep, she's off to turn in an application for some idol hiring scheme, and she gets run over.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up dead, 12 years later.
Yep.
Yep.
And she's a zombie now, and she's with all these other girl zombies. And then there's this...
Well, some of them are women zombies.
Oh, yeah, they're all from different eras.
Tai is 29.
Tai is the one with the pipe who's from, the night.
No, Tai is the one who never gains sentience.
Yes. But because she's in her 40s, I think.
No, she's 29.
No, I'm saying the older lady.
Oh, no, she's not. She couldn't have been in that era.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because it's implied that, I think she's from... It's strongly implied that she died in the Japanese Civil War.
Yes.
Because she makes comments about, the Shinsengumi.
It's implied she was a geisha.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she has the... she can play the instrument and stuff and do...
Yeah, she's got a bunch of the skills that are associated with geisha.
And she's got that mature woman vibe that you associate.
She has a bit of cleavage.
I do like her.
Her clothing is not accurate, though, as I recall.
No, they're clearly going for a look.
I'm thinking, and I could swear that her clothing is a bit more Taisho era, but she's only 19, though.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually.
But yes, Zombieland Saga. What if there were zombies and they were in an idol group?
But no one knows they're zombies?
Yeah, they wear makeup. Also, their manager is awful. Their
manager is, I think, a big part of the reason why the show was successful.
Yes, and I feel very strongly about the manager. He is played as this is comedy, funny, haha, because he's completely overbearing and ridiculous. The fact that the idol industry is known for horrific work conditions and just rank exploitation of the workers means that I didn't find him that funny.
I get, he is Mamoru Miyano hamming it up to 11.
Yeah.
And it definitely has moments in which I think I think it's the girls' reactions to him sometimes. But no, it's not when he's yelling at them. It's whenever he's not with them or whenever he's doing things off to the side, when he starts beatboxing so they can do the rap battle, for example. He's funny in those moments.
Yeah. But he spends an awful lot of time just yelling at them.
Yes.
And I did not find that funny. And it was also clear the show thought it was very funny.
Oh, yes.
But, it starts out as pretty much a comedy, and then it starts getting a bit into wanting to be a drama, and that didn't really work for me. There is one episode involving, and if you know nothing else about this show, you know about this, Lily, who is the trans girl idol.
Lily Hoshino.
She's 8 or 9 years old. She's the youngest.
I think she acts a lot younger than she is.
But she's the youngest.
Yes.
And, yes, she is trans. And in her life, her dad was very supportive of her in her entertainment career. There's a lot to like about Lily. It really bothers me how she died because it's so stupid it hurts. She started getting body hair.
And then she died
of shock. Which is kind of But she is a very positive
Yeah.
trans representation
Yeah.
in a medium that doesn't get a lot of that. So
The best part...
she's just...
Yeah.
Because, too, even within the group, it's like, wait, so you were a boy? And one of the characters is like, what? Lily's a girl. And it's a total non-issue from that point.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So that was one of the episodes that had a little more drama that I was like, that worked for me.
Yes, that was...
Most of them didn't.
The one, probably the most interesting fact about Lily Hoshino, though, is that she has appeared in UK Parliament.
Yes, she has.
Because...
She's a meme.
She's a meme because she is representative of positive trans depiction in anime.
Or just, she's a positive trans depiction in popular culture.
She has been used in anti-TERF memer. If you're not into this whole scene, TERF is trans exclusionary radical feminists, which is specifically people who call themselves hyper-feminists and are into feminist issues but do not consider trans people part of feminism and consider them a danger to feminism.
Yeah, that trans women are just men who are predators.
Yes. And they're called TERFs.
Well, they called themselves TERFs.
Oh, I thought it was the...
No, originally they called themselves TERFs. Well, but because a lot of people are like, wait, that's completely ludicrous. Why on earth could... You can't call yourself this if you're not that.
Yeah.
TERF is used as like a derogatory term by a lot of people, but it was their own phrase originally.
Oh, really? I didn't know that part.
Yes.
But, so someone had, I think it was even a politician in the UK, had like...
Oh, printed out one of the memes.
Well, what happened was people started...
They
done some anti-trans bullshit. And people started sending them just like, shut the fuck up, TERF.
It was shut up, TERF.
Shut up. I think it was just shut the fuck up, TERF. And it was Lily Hoshino holding a gun with a big grin on her face. And it's like, and then they printed it out, brought out in Parliament, and showed everyone the picture of this anime girl holding a gun saying, shut up, TERF. It is amazing.
But yeah, this was... Getting back to the show itself, this was a wildly successful show.
Massively successful in Japan.
Sold, its disc average was 16,000. It's getting a second season. Now, there is one thing that gets brought up with this because, it takes place in Saga, which is one of the most distant prefectures. It's way down south.
Hence Zombieland Saga.
Part of this, so they're trying to have an idol outfit because they're trying to, will attract people to Saga. Because Saga is experiencing depopulation. And I will say, though, that watching this was this moment of, but why are we trying to reverse that trend? What is the benefit of reversing that trend?
I mean, you're getting to a really big issue.
I know, but, it did because... much of Saga is very remote. It is difficult to deliver services there for the central government. So I think it does bring up the question of, is it really a good idea to try to reverse the depopulation issue? Or are we really just then making things harder down the road because then you end up with a population out there that requires services and support?
This is
because then we could get into global warming and environmental destruction.
You're getting into a level of issue that I almost don't want to cover because
it's too big.
It's too big. You're talking about the depopulation of rural areas.
Yeah.
And which for many people consider that to be one of the biggest tragedies of modern civilization. Why? Because
they have this imagined view of rural spaces that isn't really true. Is what I would argue.
Ask Hayao Miyazaki what he thinks of this.
Let's consider... We were talking about the UK. Let's consider the view of the rural in the English imagination.
I think it's the big part of it is for those who are left behind who can't leave, older people.
Yes,
they're left with a dead They're left with a dead town where they can't get any services anymore, and they have become third-class citizens.
But I would also argue that to me, the answer to that is the central government needs to do a better job, not, hey, let's move a bunch of other people out there for the problem to repeat itself 50 years from now. Because I just don't think that this is a trend that's going to turn around.
But is overpopulation of cities? See, that's the thing. This is.
But you could also point out that having dense population is ultimately better for the world because you use up it's less resource intensive.
But then everyone lives in cities packed with pollution and they all die earlier.
Well, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No, I know. This is, as I say, this is way
anyway,
bigger.
But that's going way beyond. Yeah. I guess my larger point, though, is I did get skeptical about the idea of, trying to reverse depopulation trends while watching Zombieland Saga, which I don't think was what they were going for.
No. They did make me think, like, man, that chicken shop that they did the advertisement for,
We're not going there.
That's a real place.
I know.
I found a picture of it. And then they had the one episode where that's the thing, the comedy episodes are way better. Like the one where they go and do into the like mud Olympics and they have to do the like Tarzan swing.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, our agent has found us something to do that's idols.
Yes.
And it's like, wait.
We're competing in the mud Olympics.
Why are we jumping into a mud pit and trying to bicycle across it?
Yes.
What is going on? Oh, and then Ty's head pops off.
Oh, gosh. This show's okay. I'm going to give the second season a shot, but yeah, it was...
I don't think I am, but it's fine.
So, you were saying that, like, yes, this was a huge... less so in the West, but it was a huge success in Japan.
Uh-huh.
The one that's at the top of this list, though, like, I hadn't realized until I saw the sales data recently. I knew this thing was fairly popular in the West. It was the most popular season on Mal this season. This thing was also huge in Japan. Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
God, I hate that localized title. It's awful.
I mean, that's what it translates as.
Well, yes, if you do... You remember how we've talked about Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
And how the title isn't actually the best way they could have translated it.
No.
Because, direct translations are not necessarily the same as... Look, there's a reason the term transliteration exists. This, to me, stinks of the, like, old school... way too much involvement on the Japanese side of the house in picking an English language title.
Yes.
Because really, I think it would make more sense to have it as, this rascal doesn't dream of the bunny girl or, like, I don't know, bunny girl classmate or something. This is just an abomination of a translation.
The show is one of those, it takes after specifically... Love Com Snafu.
Yep. Oregairu.
Which, in many ways, also, they kind of all take after a bit of Monogatari. And a little bit, honestly, of Haruhi Suzumiya. It's this idea of wisecracking too satirical, not satirical, it's too cynical for this world teenage boy. And then girls are all around him and they're all... And then they solve their problems and they're all...
Yeah, and there's some angst and there's some genuine issues that people are grappling with.
Yeah. And they all ultimately come back to, well, they don't actually, but in certainly American literature, come back to the one that we both hate, the book.
Catcher in the Rye?
Catcher in the Rye.
I mean, although being surrounded by girls is totally not what's going on in that.
I think the part where... In many ways, I feel like the scene with him...
I get where you're going for, but also the one in Catcher in the Rye is the one with the problems, not the one solving them.
Yeah, but I think the main characters in Rascal and also in Oregairu, they all have problems as well. Yes.
But it's also very much about solving the problems of the girls. Anyway.
It was huge.
It actually got a movie.
Yeah.
That was pretty big. The impression I got from people who did watch it was that Love Com Snafu is a better take on that kind of story. But it had nothing that I was interested in.
I read a bit of the manga version and I did not like it, but I don't like Love Com Snafu, so I'm not a good... And I like the Monogatari series, which in many ways this is similar to, but I like Monogatari for the kind of weird, abstract, postmodern visual and storytelling where... all of this means nothing kind of thing. kind of Utena-esque, really. And that's why whenever it gets more serious, and particularly why I actually don't like Hanakawa Tsubasa in Monogatari series, is because I actually don't care about that part of the story. But that's what like things like Rascal and Lovecom Snafu deal with more. So I wasn't really into it, but the show was huge. The show was bigger than anything else this season.
Yeah. Another one that was big, though, that neither of us watched or liked was Goblin Slayer.
I read a chunk of the manga for this.
I wanted absolutely nothing to do with it.
Definitely the most controversial show this season. One of the most controversial shows of the decade. Because the show, I mean, in many ways it's very simple. It is...
It's one of those isekai that's like, oh, you think that like being an adventurer and isekai is just like fun shit? You just don't even know.
Not even an isekai.
Well, it's fantasy. But it's also definitely riffing on the like, oh, you think it would be so easy to do this.
It's set in the same world of all the isekais, but no isekai hero has actually appeared. Well, it's a video game RPG.
Well, down to the fact that the characters all have names like Priestess.
Yeah.
They don't have actual names.
Yes, exactly.
This was the one that I really, 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 really do not like its central premise, which is just like, like I said, you think it's so easy and fun to be this adventurer and get to go on cool things. Well, guess what? Oh, you didn't take it seriously enough, so now you're all going to be raped to death.
Yeah.
That's the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a man who kills goblins. So I'm not saying that you, dear listener, who actually likes Goblin Slayer, let's say, because there were people who liked it, but there was definitely a weird fan base around the show of people who were alt-right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've seen that for Goblin Slayer more than I've seen for any other show I can think of. And I think it's something to do with we must destroy all the infidels who are around raping people, kind of. And it's not considered, because I'm not even going to call it feminist, but there's like material aimed at women which are like, we're going to kill all the rapists. Yeah. And it's like, this is trashy, but I like it because they're kicking men's
Revenge
ass.
fantasies.
But this is not that. This is not a revenge fantasy. This is, I want to kill a bunch of things, that's moral free, which they often do with things like Nazis or demons. And they present the goblins in this same, like is equally amoral and evil and you must clearly kill them, but it's the level of detail in which they show like, oh, watch these bitches getting raped. Oh yeah. That is what makes it so controversial ultimately.
Well, when you're talking about... So I've read people who are watching this in a professional capacity, reviewing it, who discuss that one of the big issues they had with it as a story, though, setting aside all the sexual violence, was that it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, yes.
Because within the show, the Goblin Slayer himself, that's a moniker that's considered insulting. Like, oh, you just kill goblins. Because within the world of this show, goblins are considered this, like, nothing, just totally, lowest level monsters, not really a big deal. So the idea that you would base your entire career around killing goblins is like, ugh, who would even do that? But then it shows these depictions of goblins as these, like, horrible murdering rapists that can't be stopped. And it doesn't work. Exactly. You can't have both be true.
And the problem this comes back to is, and we're going to get into this into the next show, which was also very popular, is that by transposing fantasy RPG logic into the anime form, sometimes what you just take for granted in these stories, which is that goblins are always the first and weak enemy, just doesn't make sense in the world that you've then trying to create, and it actually undermines the story. And I feel like this some way happens in this next show, which was also really popular. That time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Which you watched a decent bit of, didn't you?
Yes, because it's actually quite well written. It's funny. The main character is fun to watch. There's a funny scene where he's talking to ancient dragon who has been sealed for decades. And the dragon's like, I am great evil dragon. And he's like, oh, I guess I'll run away from you then. And he's like, no, come back. Not that I want to talk to you or anything. And I was like, oh, it's a Desundra evil dragon. This is kind of funny. But in many ways, because this was like genuinely well written, it was kind of like Gate from a couple of seasons ago. Wait, a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago now. In that, because the inherent writing was good enough, I could like then engage with it on a deeper level and then see all the real flaws in the inherent premises of some of these stories. This one isn't like as objectively awful as kind of Gates' messages are, but it gets to the core of this is much more true isekai in the sense that it is a character who
not
dies.
like that fake isekai.
A character who gets reborn in another world, and it reminded me that these are. The power fantasies of these undermine a lot of the attempts of undermine a lot of the stories and make them annoying to watch. You know, such as they just get unlimited power out of nowhere, and you're like, well, this removes all sense of suspense. And if you don't make the story about something else, them overcoming these issues is not an interesting story. You know, Mob Psycho is a good example of something that has a character who has amazing power but can't use that to overcome the problems he wants to overcome. There's also the part where these stories are essentially... So obviously it doesn't work when you talk about Japan, but white man's burden, aka colonialism.
But you do... you say it doesn't work in Japan's
case,
no,
I'm saying the phrase white man's burden, but I don't know what you'd call it. Japanese man burden.
But I mean, you had the same thing with Japan in World War II, and the lead up to World War II was this very paternalistic attitude toward East and Southeast Asia, and like, oh, well, you know, these lesser races, Japan will step in and
modernize them.
We'll modernize them, and we'll take on the burden of, you know, shepherding them to the modern era because they're too inferior to manage to do it themselves.
Yeah. And so Slime-kun is a lot, because this guy chose the other world. He's not an especially remarkable person at all, but because he is genre savvy, he gets all these people, and because he's got stupid, amazing powers, he just makes all these people into this new civilization, and they can do stuff. Because I've been thinking about this a lot in relation to Dr. Stone, which I've been watching recently, and why that works and other stories don't. But we'll get to that when I talk about Dr. Stone. That's coming up.
Yeah, it's a little while off, but not much.
So yeah. Also, there's the part where they had a bunch of like monster girls a monster race of people, and they had like they were like human shaped but had monster features on them, and then they got magical powers, and they all turned really generic, and you're like, God damn it. Let them be different. Yeah, so I gave up halfway through because I think a lot of the issues ultimately just got on my nerves too much. That for as much as like the kind of surface level was well made and I enjoyed it, the constant little irritations under that eventually got on me and I had to stop watching it.
There was another... we'll just call it fantasy, because Goblin Slayer wasn't technically isekai. Another fantasy show this season was the latest Sword Art Online.
Oh, yeah.
Alicization.
The original, not the original isekai, but the original of the modern isekai.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
I can't think of what you'd put before it.
Yeah. So because things like SAO don't have the slavery fetish apologia... I will take kind of isekai over the genre that it originally stamped out, which was emoto fetish, just as my system, my writer. I prefer the isekai genre discounting the slavery apologia fetishism to the emoto fetishism.
I said in the last one, though, if I'd known that slavery apologia was going to displace emoto shit, I still would totally pick emoto bullshit for, the next 1,000 years over any of the slavery garbage.
My system, my writer, has a score of 5.
This is the one that visually just completely
shot
died.
The bed, yes.
Hideous. And, I mean, that's without even getting into the objectionable content at its heart, which is, I have an Emoto. She's a light novel writer. Oh, guess what? It turns out she's into... I think she writes Emoto stories.
Oh, so it's just like Emoto.
I think so, at least. I don't know. People, I don't think were watching this for the story. I think they were watching it for the visual train wreck. But now I'm going to jump back, though, because, if we want to talk... Actually, this dovetails beautifully. Conception. Isekai and ill-advised, sexual escapades. Conception's whole point was, okay, so this guy and his friend, she's his childhood friend, end up in an alternate world, and he has to bang, he has to knock up 12 women, including his childhood friend, who might be pregnant or might not be. So because they have to all have the babies that are going to save the world.
So I remember when the video game first came out, the idea of it was half dating sim and half shooter, I think. But it's half dating sim. The idea is to improve your people in this story. You've got to get the relationships with all the different dating sims better. And people were like, this is actually a weirdly entertaining, kind of like Persona in a way. But with dating sim, except all the story and dating sim writing is so trite and awful that it's not actually good. And then decided, let's take all that and make an anime out of it.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone liked it. It had a lot of awkward sex scenes in it, though. I don't know this from watching it. I just know it from clips.
Yeah.
Well, there were a bunch of light novel adaptations, like Boarding School Juliet and Index 3.
I think Boarding School Juliet was a manga, actually.
No, I could have sworn it was a light novel originally. Oh, no, you know what? You're right. It is a manga.
Yes.
It just seems like it could have been a light novel. We watched the first couple of episodes of this. It was much better than I was expecting. And it seemed perfectly fine for the type of story it is, which is a shonen romance.
Yeah, it's a shonen romance.
It was definitely toward the less ecchi end of the spectrum. And it starts out, you have a Romeo and Juliet type situation because there's these two kids who are the scions of their families, and their families can't stand each other. And I think they're from two different countries. And then it turns out they're both in love with each other.
They're from two different sides of the school that fight with each other.
Yeah, but they're from two different countries otherwise.
Okay, yeah. But they're madly in love and they must keep it a secret.
Yes. And it actually was fairly sincere.
Yeah.
This had an attempted sexual assault in the first episode, though.
It did.
It's kind of blink and you'll miss it, at least, but... He ends up approaching her in part, though, because she thinks she's by herself, and she's been practicing her swordswoman skills, and I forget if she's talking to herself or what, but the upshot is that she's dealing with sexism. She's like, I gotta be better than everyone else, because if I'm not, then I don't have a chance, because she wants to be the head of the family. It was pretty sincere stuff.
I should have mentioned this show back when we were talking about what was the most popular thing, because this was another one that was sold stupid amounts in Japan, really, really, really top seller, and did nothing in the West, which was Gridman, or Gridman.
SSSS Gridman.
Which is a Trigger show, weirdly.
Yeah.
None of Trigger is no Maishi, no Trigger stylings, it's mechs. I
just remember I was always seeing the girls' goddamn thighs all over Twitter.
That, as far as I can tell, is the whole reason why it was successful. I didn't see it. I went looking for some stuff afterwards. I tried to find out, wait, why did this sell so well? And as far as I could tell, I was like, dem ties.
Yeah, I was weirded out by the fandom around it on Twitter, actually, because it really did seem to just be, my entire feed was full of her thighs. And she's 15 or 16, so I was creeped out.
There was the Diamond Why Not crash.
Oh god, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Diamond is Unbreakable. I watched a couple episodes of this after someone described it as The Adventures of Pete and Pete. And they were bang on with that description.
Wait.
No, this is not.
This isn't.
You know what the problem is?
Oh,
because we wrote it as... So, folks, you know how Mal... switched over to having Japanese names for everything, even things that weren't necessarily released under a Japanese name to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so it's Jojo Kimyo Boken.
Wind.
Well, no, it's Bento Oreo.
Oh, Bento Oreo, yes.
And just as a joke, when I was writing things down, I wrote it as Wind Will Not Crash, as a riff on Diamond Does Not Crash. No, this is Golden Wind, which you watched.
I watched the whole thing, actually, because I had been someone who'd been super, super into, like, the first 2 seasons of JoJo's.
Yep.
Wasn't super keen on season 3, and then, like, watched only, like, a couple episodes of season 4, realized it was going to be more of the same, and dropped off. I definitely preferred this one. I think I just preferred the characters, and I had more accepted what it was going to be like. We were never going to go back to what the show originally was in season 2.
Battle Tendency, or what was the other one? Phantom Blood?
Phantom Blood. Well, Phantom Blood's kind of weird, but, like, it was never going to go back to Battle Tendency, so I kind of got on board with this one more. Especially once they stopped referencing characters from season 4, which unfortunately I was never into. That said, by the end, I was kind of done with it. There was that one...
The one I remember, because I watched a couple episodes of it, and I just remember the one that kept getting riffed on by people was gangsters will try to blend in.
Oh,
and then you see their outfits and you're like...
Their outfits. I mean, I know this is...
Oh, see, that's why I didn't really watch much of it, because their outfits are too horrible.
It's JoJo's. They always wear stupid outfits, but these ones are...
That guy with the suit that just had holes in it.
Oh, the one that's
it bothered me.
Where it's like, he had a heart that, like, over his nipples, and JoJo's is amazing.
Also, this was the one that, the Blu-ray release... Remember I showed you...
Oh, they did the corrected scene, and...
So there was one scene where 2 of the guys are firing a gun together, and it's fairly gay as it is, and they made it gayer in the Blu-ray release.
They made it so his hand was down his pants as he was shooting the gun.
Yeah.
And it's like...
This is a Blu-ray fix I can get behind.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked this. I didn't love it the same way I did for the first season of JoJo's, but, like, I got into this one. Which hadn't happened for a while. At the moment, I'm mostly waiting for... I mean, I know you really want to watch part 6.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we get Jolene.
And I really want to watch part 7 because that's the one that's set in... It's like Cowboy America. And that one's got rave reviews.
I gotta try not to get myself too expectant of having the song Jolene as the OP, too. Because that seems unlikely.
This is another one that I didn't realize. I was wondering whether JoJo sales were dropping. And then, because I before this one, because I realized I actually didn't know a lot of the sales for stuff like 2018, 2019. And so I went and looked up the sales for a lot of this stuff. JoJo still sells incredibly. It is... No one... They're going to keep making more.
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
It has been too much of a massive success.
Also, does anyone at David Production know how to make anything else at this point?
They've made some other stuff.
I'm joking.
Yes. They made sales at work.
That is a lot of what they've been doing.
Yes.
There was released The Spice, which was awful.
Maybe one of the worst TV anime this decade.
Well, we didn't watch much of it, but we watched one episode and we both looked at each other and went, what the hell did we just watch?
It's like,
was that terrible or is it just me?
It has like the worst writing of any... It's so bad and like the visuals are awful.
You know, I was really disappointed because the trailer for it looked like it could have been a lot of fun, like this, spy caper thing.
It looked a bit like Princess Principal. Yes,
but a little sillier.
Yeah.
And more colorful in its approach. And it's just, the writing was really bad. Things happened, like the connective tissue seemed to be missing in places.
Anyway.
There's a...
Run with the Wind.
I have feelings about Run with the Wind.
Run with the Wind it currently has an 8.5 on Mal.
Yeah,
this
a lot
show
of people
was a
did like
critic's
it.
darling. It's Production IG doing a sports show about jogging. No, about long distance running.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not jogging.
Long distance running. And it's set in college and the visuals are incredible. It's basic. I don't know if it's the same team
who made... It's very well produced.
I don't know if it's the same team who made Haikyuu, but it's...
It's definitely in the style.
Yes.
If you look, you could definitely tell they're from the same studio. And the approach to adapting Haikyuu, I would argue, is definitely apparent in this as an adaptation.
It's one of the things that you always notice. I noticed this with Haikyuu most of all, and I've since then been like I recognize good animation is running cycles. And considering this whole show is about running, again, the run cycle across is a really important thing. And this show does this perfectly. It is amazing at just that kind of visual storytelling.
So I do have to tell you the premise because otherwise I can't talk about why I didn't like it. The premise is there is this dorm for this university. Well, saying it's a dorm doesn't quite get it because it's not run by the school, but it's a rooming house. And it is occupied by all these students at this university, and it's low cost, and that's why a lot of them are there. And then it turns out that the guy who has pretty much organized it and, in some cases manipulated people into living there. Well, it's actually the house no, it is owned by the university because it's the house for the running club. And everybody signed these contracts that say they have to compete in a marathon, in ultra marathon.
Yeah.
And it takes place in, it's in Hakone. So, and I forgot how long it is, but it's long. Maybe it is only a marathon. Anyway, it's a long distance race. So then it's like, oh no, all these people got tricked and now they're going to have to run. And a lot of them are like, dude, fuck you. What? No, I'm not running. I don't like it. And there's two primary leads and the other one is this guy who's caught stealing at the beginning of the show because he has no money.
Yes.
He's a student and he ends up living there because he's broke as hell. And he used to be a runner, but he's like, fuck that, I'm not doing it anymore. And I forget why.
Yeah.
There's bad blood in some capacity. And he's really ticked at the guy. He's like, no, that's ridiculous. Go fuck yourself. I'm done with running. I'm not doing it anymore. And so it ends up being one of those shows where the lead character is just badgering everybody into doing this thing. And I don't like that as a premise. I find it obnoxious. I don't think that it is fun or heartwarming to watch one character harass, badger, pester, and threaten people into participating in something. And I don't like it when something presents this to me as being humorous or as being acceptable. And I especially don't like it being presented to me as, well, you see, actually, it's okay that he's doing this because he's trying to recover from this really bad injury that ended his career. So actually, everybody should just go along with what he's making them do. I don't find that entertaining. I think it sucks. And I know a lot of people liked this show, and I know that I'm sure there's plenty to like in it, but I find the premise crap. Just completely soured me on it.
I've kind of wanted to go back to it for a while because I agree with you. I found that character, like, he was so off-putting to the point that I didn't want to watch it anymore, but I liked nearly every other character. I actually particularly enjoyed that one character from Mozambique. Yeah. Who was actually like a very well depicted, like, I'm an immigrant in Africa and an immigrant in Japan. And, he got really excited when someone said they knew what the country was. He's like, most of you have never heard of it.
Yeah, there's also something funny because when the guy's like, oh, you're all going to run, he's like, and, he's going around, it's like, this is why you can do it. This is why you can do it. And then he gets to the guy from Africa, and the guy from Africa's like, we're not all good at running.
We're not all good at this. Yes.
Like, we're not all long distance runners.
I'm a dork.
And I want to say he's a medical student. So it's like, why on earth would you ever... Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the cast is fine. I couldn't get past the premise.
I kind of want to go back to it. I probably will at some point.
It's on Crunchyroll, so you definitely can.
Yeah, it wasn't huge by any means, but it definitely it was a critic's darling.
Yes.
It's definitely the best way to put it.
The other boys' sports show this season was a KyoAni. That was about archery, Tsurune.
Yeah.
This didn't really do that well.
No.
I think they were trying to go back to the free well, and turns out that...
They need to be all naked and wet.
I think, too, there was a sense that it wasn't different enough from free, and that some of the characters were too bland, so it didn't work.
It didn't have much to stick out. I think also it coming off of the just kind of bonkers visuals from Violet Evergarden earlier in the year from KyoAni, it's just, this thing got completely overshadowed. Even
people I know who finished were like, well, it was okay.
Yeah.
The visuals were all right.
It's KyoAni.
Yeah.
One show I wanted to bring up, because I just find it interesting that it exists, is Radiant, which is a pretty generic-ass shonen series about fantasy and people fighting monsters and stuff. But it was written and published originally in France. And it was brought over basically to run in a shonen mag, in part because the guy who writes it, but the guy who did the art for One Punch Man. The guy, he also did like the art for Ice Shield 21. Like really incredible artist. Like he.
Wait a minute, that guy did something recently. The Ice Shield 21. I'm gonna have to look this up later. Anyway.
Okay. He apparently read this manga and thought, this is amazing. The art in this is incredible. We should bring this over. And he was a big part of the reason why it was able to come over in the first place. And I just think that's cool. You know, French guy draws something very manga inspired and it becomes an anime.
Yeah.
I mean, the anime itself, it got a second season, so it can't have done too bad, but...
It was just kind of...
Yeah.
There's a few more things that we should hit on. Speaking of shonen, this Karakuri Circus, which is by the author of Uchion Tora.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this wouldn't have gotten an adaptation if the Uchion Tora adaptation that happened more recently hadn't done so well. I saw a couple episodes of this. It's fine. It's a darker shonen. It has people with... It's got killer puppets.
Yeah.
It's like, what if... it's a little bit like Jojo's in that instead of stands, it's killer puppets.
Okay.
And they fight each other.
All right.
And the lead's an orphan, and he ends up getting dragged into it because people are someone tries to kidnap him, and I don't remember the finer details, but this was, it's a very 90s shonen, though. Although I think it only started serialization in the late 90s. It's fine. It's just... Shonen doesn't do a huge amount for me.
And then we have...
So, I realized, though, that we were talking about sports shows, and I should have brought this up with the sports shows.
Oh?
Between the Sky and the Sea.
I don't even know which one this is.
This is the space fishing one.
Oh, Christ.
I watched this somewhat recently.
Why?
This was known as being really bad and having an, absolute face-smackingly stupid premise. In the future, fish have disappeared. So Japan builds giant tanks in space that have fish in them. And that's how we have fish again. And there are these space fishers who have to go up and catch the fish and then bring them back to Earth so people can have seafood. And Japan's the leading, country in this new field.
Wasn't this based off a phone game?
Yes, it was.
How?
It's a fishing game.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's weird. And
it's not very good either.
It's not very good. It also... This is one of those shows that... It wants to be about sexism.
Oh.
But it's one of those shows that's like, oh yes, we're examining how unfair workplace conditions can be for women, like having to deal with sexual harassment and such. But we also put everybody in these completely unnecessarily cleavage-tastic outfits.
Ah, yes.
And you're like, what are you doing? It's so ham-handed at points. At the same time, it also gets it really right on the nose at points. In particular, so our Yankee lead she's like, I'm going to be a face fisher. And she joins this team, and it's the first team of girls who are doing it. And they're all girls, so not women. Actually, one of them might be like 19 or 20, but... And she's like, yeah, and they deal with a lot of sexism. In the first episode alone, they're repeatedly told, girls can't do this, women can't do this, it's too dangerous, you're too stupid, this, that, and the other.
You can't space fish.
They deal with the fact that their equipment is significantly older, and also they're getting blocked from access to the training pool. Oh, well, you can go practice in the municipal pool with your little, space fish hunting mechs. And... It's like, okay, that's all right. But yeah, then they're in the goddamn outfits. But there's also, about halfway through, one of the guys who's on the other space fishing team, who's been a sexist shitbag the whole time, tells one of them, oh, you should just, women are, I don't know why you need to do this. You know, you're a woman. You should just go work in the cannery. Because the cannery workers are almost all women. And so, you know, the whole thing is like, oh, you should go work there. And the girl he's saying this to responds with, like, instead of just being like, yeah, fuck you, I'm going to do this. She doesn't just say, I'm going to do this because it's what I want to, but she also says, but what you're saying is insulting to the work that the cannery workers are doing because you're implying that it is a lesser job. And I was like, oh, whoever wrote this interaction actually got it.
Good on you, space
and
fishing
I was like,
anime.
okay, that was unexpected, but it's just the whole... It's trying, but it's not there, and it doesn't get why it's not there either.
Do you know another show that tried but didn't quite get there?
Double Decker.
Doug and Kirilu.
There's so much I like about this show, but it also didn't quite work.
It's by the Tiger and Bunny team, apparently set in the same universe.
And by the way, so this was announced originally. It's like, oh, Tiger and Bunny's getting a sequel. And people are like, oh, what? Finally? My dreams are coming true. And then a little bit later, people are like, Double Decker, Doug and Kirill. And people were pissed.
Also, the animation is, like, after episode, 2...
There's some
completely
bad
collapses.
animation
Oh
moments.
my god, it's not as bad as Copcraft, but
Other things no one watched.
Yeah. No one watched
Doug and Kirill it's a buddy cop show, but it's also a really queer buddy cop show in ways that I was not expecting.
It's goofy and very
It's really
silly.
colorful. I love the cast.
The cast are hilarious.
Kirill is a dumbass who wants to be a hero.
Oh, gosh.
And spends a lot of time being like, oh, yes, I'll do this. And you think you're watching what's happening. And then you realize, no, he's just crouched behind a barrel and he's been imagining the cool shit he's going to do. And then he steps out and he fucks it up.
Yeah, he trips over his own.
And it's, he's a police officer and it's this special unit that's dealing with people who have taken this modification drug and have gotten out of control. And
it's anime drugs where it's it doesn't seem to do anything good for you, you just die.
Yeah.
Classic banana fish. They're taking banana fish. They might as well be.
Or Platinum Lily from Triage X.
Okay. Red Eye from Cowboy Bebop. You get the gist.
And it doesn't always get it right, but it is queer. There are gay characters, there are trans characters. And yeah,
it's stupid, and the main overall story is not good. The characters are great, but the animation is terrible. It does have a very memorable ending song.
Oh.
Don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's
just
great.
Na.
Go watch the ending. It's a little reminiscent of Trust Me.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll put the ending song actually, because I can't think of anything else this season that would be a good ending song.
I liked a lot of it. It's not a great show. I wish it had done a little better, though.
So we've said this basically almost. I had some mildly positive things to say about JoJo's. You said some mildly positive things about Boarding School Juliet. There is one show this season that we both actually really, really liked.
Skullface Bookseller
Honda-san.
Oh, you put Honda-chan.
Oh.
Or are you a fanboy?
No, you got to say.
Isn't it Honda-kun?
No, it's Gaiko Senki Honda-san.
Oh yeah, it is Honda-san.
Yes.
This was written by an author. The author worked in a bookstore.
Yeah.
And it's about behind the scenes at a bookstore.
Workplace comedy.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
It's really, really funny and really insightful into what it's like working in a bookstore. The best stuff is whenever he interacts with foreigners who are really excited to buy manga.
Oh yeah, him trying to help people. Some of the stuff. There's this one episode where it's a series of shorts, and in one of the episodes, in one of the sections, it's this foreigner who's a guy who is trying to buy manga for it's either his daughter or his granddaughter.
It's his daughter, yes.
And he's buying stuff that's, isn't it fairly explicit?
It's tentacle yaoi.
And he's like, oh, I hope she likes it. And Honda-san's like, oh my god, what are you buying?
And there's some of the things of him speaking like vaguely broken English, and like on the screen it will come up saying, "Let's bullshit English time."
Yeah, and he draws himself as a skeleton.
Yes.
And all the other characters no one has their real face showing. They've all gone on like masks or other sorts of things, so you don't actually see their face.
And they all call themselves like their names, like, "Oh, it's Motorcycle Helmet Man."
Yeah. Honda is one of the things that I think works about it is that Honda is not making fun ever of the people who are asking him questions in the bookstore. It has a very sympathetic view of the customers who come into the bookstore.
It's very much like, wow, look at all these people appreciating all sorts of stories. And I mean, it's a bit weird, but like, more power to them. Wow, I guess they really like Japanese literature.
Yeah.
I guess that's good.
So that's what I mean. I don't mean so much like, a customer comes in and is an asshole and they're not terrible to them. It's that the attitude toward the sorts of material that people are seeking out is not judgmental.
But it's also, it's not even just like, whoa, Japanese bookstores are great, because they also then talk about like, one of Honda's jobs was to deal with Western comics.
Yeah. So it gets into discussions about, the different types of books that are being sold. And, it gets into things like how things are displayed.
Yes.
Where things are shelved, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in the book selling industry, it's probably worth a watch.
Honda's great. He's very neurotic. He's very Japanese man neurotic, which is to say the kind of like reserved and doesn't want to deal with people, but after dealing with someone is like, oh, that was all right, I guess.
Yeah. He's very likable, which is part of what makes the show work.
Probably worth mentioning, this is Flash animated, so it's in the style of something like Thermae Romay. It's
not bad looking. It works for what the material is, because it's not action based, so it's never like, oh no, Flash is not working for this scene.
This show is great.
I liked it a lot.
It's a really, really fun show. I was going back over the decade to pick out the thing, what to put on my list of animated of the decade. I was looking at this and thinking, I was just some Flash animated things. I watched a little bit of it and thought, no, I really enjoyed this show.
Yeah. So there's the last show that we need to discuss is actually one that did very, very, very well.
Oh, did I skip something?
You did.
What?
Bloom Into You.
Oh, Christ.
That did very well, and it
show
continues to do very well. It's done extremely well in the West. It's been a huge hit. The manga's a huge hit. The manga was a big enough hit that there ended up being 3 prequel novels written, which have been licensed for release in the West because the manga sold very well in the West. This is a Yuri show. I have feelings about this. I have some fairly significant feelings about this because I don't like it. I think it does some stuff extremely well, particularly with regards to Sayaka, who is the only one of the teenage characters that I would argue actually has a queer identity. There is an older couple that is depicted in the show, a lesbian couple. Love them, love watching them. They get to just lead. One of the things that's so refreshing about them is we see them just hanging out in their apartment after they've both gotten home from work, just living their lives. But I hate the main storyline. My big issue ultimately with Bloom Into You is that it implicitly is an argument that being asexual or aromantic or both is not a genuine identity, but it's just a sign of immaturity. And I have a big problem with that. I don't think that's an acceptable viewpoint. The lead character, as she's presented, comes across as just genuinely not being interested in romance or sex. And the show then spends the rest of its runtime with the would-be love interest badgering her into a romance. Not letting up when she says, hey, no, that's not okay. I'm not interested in that. I know you like me, but I don't feel that way. Please stop touching me. Please stop trying to kiss me. The leads are, what's her name? Yu is the one who isn't interested in romance, and Toko actually says she isn't interested either at the beginning, but then she's the one who ends up pursuing Yu. The other character, there's another character that I've seen used as justification for the primary storyline, and as in the sense of, oh no, it's not really saying that this is a sign of immaturity. I can't remember his name, but he's this boy that's in the student council with them, and he never wavers from being like, oh yes, I'm not interested in romance or sex on my own part, but he's also presented as being a voyeur to other people's romances. And he's quite explicit about it. He's like, oh, I love watching other people fall in love. Oh, I really enjoy watching other people's relationships develop. And not in a like, oh, isn't that nice over there that they got together? No, in a he spies on the main character at several points type way. He's a voyeur.
He's horny for it.
And so to me, that's not, he does not represent a, well, actually, see, the show doesn't really think this is a sign of immaturity, because it's clearly, in his case, not healthy. And there's no getting around that. That is baked into the premise. A story could have been told. Actually, I don't know. Given that it's so baked into the premise, I don't know that they could have told the story with that not being part of it. But I don't like it. I didn't like it in the show. I liked Sayaka a lot. I like the way the show handles her, and the way the show actually has her, considering her sexuality. That's the other thing, too. The leads, neither one of them have any sense of, queer identity. Yeah. I liked Yu a lot. I don't like Toko at all. I think she's creepy. And I also feel like her creepy behavior gets justified as, well, you see, her sister died and she's still traumatized by it, which I find just completely not an acceptable excuse for behaving that way.
So you're saying for queer representation, the better show is Double Decker Doug and Kiro.
But yeah. I know Bloom to You did really well. I say all this, but I am considering reading the light novels because they focus on Sayaka.
Okay.
Which was a good part. I was profoundly frustrated by it, ultimately, because it seemed like in some areas it got it so right on the nose, and in other areas it was a complete fucking disaster.
Oh well.
So.
And that was the fall 2018 season, and we're going to finish off with...
I was going to say, what was your favorite show then?
Oh, it was easily Skullface Books, because I thought this was a crap season. So, I mean, I kind of enjoyed Zombieland. Like, I kind of enjoyed Jojo's finally again. But, I mean, the only show I really loved here was...
Actually, I'm looking over it. What on earth did I finish? Between the Sky and the Sea.
I think you prefer
and
Honda-san.
And I did finish Double Decker.
I didn't finish that.
I think that's it. I dropped Bloom Into You at either episode 10 or 11. So I was like, yeah, I've seen all that I'm going to get out of Sayaka. Fuck this show.
Anyway, and we're going to finish off with...
Don't give a shit!
Na 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 na.